Well, the question is, who the hell's Lee Anderson? Because, like, I'd never heard of him. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Like I met him once. He was all right.
Yeah, well, he sounds like he's all right. All I'm going on is the reporting of his enemies. And I read all the reporting, and I was like, wow, this guy sounds amazing. If he's half as good as they report on him being, as they misrepresent him as being, then I'll definitely be in support of this guy. But before we get into his opinions, let's promote Animal Farm on the website, because relevant book as always. And who was it? Connor and Bo, I think it was, going through this and doing a very good job of explaining why. In fact, it was such an in-depth analysis. They had to do it in 2 parts. So that's up on the website, and it's really good. Go check it out if you want to support us. So, who is Lee Anderson, the pro-death penalty Tory deputy chairman? I'm sold. I'm already sold. Yeah, that was already enough at the Times. You must remember, and this entire segment will be overshadowed by remember them saying, oh, Boris Johnson called them letterboxes and bum boys. And he got an overwhelming majority. Because what you think is bad, other people think is good. And saying, hey, this guy's pro-death penalty, actually turns out that most of the country are like, oh, okay, I'm listening. Because I agree with that.
Yeah, it's such a shame that I think this is just a psyop by the Conservatives.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say. So they say, the Labour Party, he was a Labour councillor who got suspended from the party, presumably for being based. And
I oppose paedophilia. Leave. I assume that's how it went down.
Well, something like that, right? He would have said something sensible, and they would have kicked him out for it. But he joined the Conservative Party, and Rishi Sunak has now appointed him as the deputy chairman of the Conservative Party, which seems odd. Obviously, this is a cynical ploy by the Tories to try and regain some of the lost love from the Red Wall.
Well, everyone, not just Red Wall. Yeah, I kind of hate that.
This guy's clearly meant to represent the Red Wall.
Sure, but it's the fact that the Conservatives are at the lowest point, I think, ever. So,
yeah,
John Major.
Yeah, probably wasn't even this bad under John Major.
No.
So the Times, an ostensibly conservative newspaper, I said ostensibly, says Anderson, the most visible and divisive spokesman for a Tory right that views the Prime Minister with suspicion at best and outright contempt at worst. Ex-Labour councillor is on the Tory right.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
How far things have turned.
Yes. That just tells us how far left the Conservatives and Rishi Sunak are. In just 3 years in Parliament, he's called for nuisance council tenants to be housed in tents and employed as potato pickers, refused to watch Gareth Southgate's England team as long as they took the knee, and said he would not follow Eddie Izzard, the transgender Labour candidate, into the lavatory, suggested families using food banks were primarily the victims of their own bad budgeting, and could instead subsist on meals cooked at mere pence at a time, earning him the nickname 30p Lee. This week alone, he has spoken in praise of the death penalty, 100% effective.
That's great. Yeah. I agree. The evidence is there.
Yeah, exactly. What you can do, refute that.
Not a single one of those statements I disavow. Those are great.
We'll get to this all, right? And he's called for Royal Navy frigates to transport migrants back to Calais and clash with the BBC journalists who dare raise previous accusations of dishonesty. He is, in short, not a man for message discipline. He's a sensible centrist. These are all just the majority opinions of the entire country.
Yeah, people who are layabout should be forced to work because he who does not work should not eat. And foreigners...
Do we have to cite Lenin?
Well, he's not...
He's not wrong on that.
He's not the first person to even say it. So, like,
sure, but...
Everyone's like, oh, yeah, that Lenin's quote. It's not really. But also, people who break into the country should be forced back with force because otherwise you don't have anything. And
you don't have a country if you don't have borders.
Dead don't commit crimes. I think he's right. Yeah. I'm yet to... I mean, maybe... Oh, no, I can't say that on YouTube, can I?
No, whatever it is, you can't say it. So,
Joe Biden.
But... And then came Brexit, for which Anderson voted, of course. Like the sensible centrist he is, he votes Brexit. And he said that Jeremy Corbyn would be ripped apart the moment he was set foot in a miners' welfare club because he says, quote, I don't want to be signing books of condolence for Fidel Castro and waving silly flags at conference.
Yeah.
What a hero.
Right.
Totally agree with everything in this.
Local man turns to the pub and is like, hey, guys, how about them terrorists?
Yeah, no, this
Aren't they the good guys?
No, Lee, this is Parliament, not the pub. You can't say that
here. So I don't stand with Lee Rigby's killers.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. I don't stand with Lee Rigby's killers. Lee Anderson, 2023. Anyway.
You've seen a clip of him outside with the Churchill statue as well?
Oh, is that him?
Yeah. There's some leftist journos are like, so what do you think of the Churchill statue? Is it racist? He's like, okay, without him, you'd all be singing German and have hanging swastikas.
Yeah.
Enough said. Just walks off.
He says he left in the Labour Party in 2018 because he got expelled because he couldn't suppress his concerns any longer. He said he defected to the Conservatives because he said, all throughout my time in the Labour Party, every meeting I went to, I always had my rant. They always used to say, why don't you go and join the Tory party? This went on for years, and then I did. Shame that's your left, really, isn't it, mate? Yeah, go join the Tory party. What, another left-wing party? But anyway, you can imagine what the response from the Westminster literati is, the highly intelligent commentariat.
No practical skills whatsoever.
Yes, who have never done an honest day's work in their life. Because, of course, the big point about Lee is that he used to work in the pits. He's an elder gentleman at this point, and so he has a lot of life experience under his belt.
But these socialites are better than you, Lee.
Well, that's exactly their opinion, actually. LBC's James O'Brien repeatedly dismissed the MP for Ashfield as thick as mince. And that's coming from James O'Brien. A man who also looks like mince as well as being thick as it. So, if James O'Brien thinks you're thick, I mean, that's really... no, I'm not going to carry on. Anyway, Ian Dunt said he's some kind of moron who had managed to reach the upper echelons of public life specifically by being stupid. Chad North FC endorsement. I love it. Like, no, this guy's a moron. It's winning elections, simple as.
He said nothing wrong.
No.
So
I know. It's amazing. So the avatar of North FC has arrived and they're all freaking out about it. It's like, great. It's true that Anderson does not have the private education and university degrees from those gentlemen have benefited. He went straight from Ashfield School to the pits as a coal miner following his father. After a decade of that, he spent a further 10 years volunteering for citizens' advice before entering politics as a Labour councillor. He switched to the Conservatives by his own account because of the takeover of the Labour Party by the hard left. Well, I totally agree with why he would do that. I totally understand. And the thing about this and all of this is that the problem that the Westminster elite have is they fail to understand there are different epistemological standards for different kinds of knowledge. As in, you can learn things firsthand, and that's good and true and legitimate. It does not have to simply be a university education. And in fact, in many cases, a university education will not prepare you for the realities of life. Not that that's ever mattered to these people because they're insulated from them. This is what I was talking about in Burke's Reflections on the French Revolution, or Revolution in France, in which Burke makes the case for why tradition and, in fact, prejudice is something that contains knowledge and wisdom. As in, this is the process of trial and error, and the accumulated wisdom of a civilization means that you actually get to benefit from the stock of wisdom of many, many thousands of different men, and not just your university lecturers. So there's actually quite a lot of benefit to a traditional view of knowledge. And I love the way that Burke puts it as well. Each man's private stock of reason is small, but our collective stock of wisdom is very large. So that's a good point. He's not wrong. And the way that this tradition is built up is through the distinction that Michael Oakeshott makes, which is another book club. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we're actually very well placed to be able to defend Lee Anderson here, so I'm going to. Michael Oakeshott, he points out that the rationalists, which are of course the people in the Westminster bubble, the university educated, only have technical knowledge, as in they have read about it in a book, whereas Lee has practical knowledge, as in something he has learned by doing, which is what tradition is, the accumulation of practical knowledge. And so it's not that Lee is stupid, and it's not that he doesn't have anything to say that isn't valid, it's that he is simply approaching things in a different way, and they can't recognize that. In fact, they're totally contemptuous of it.
Well,
so
he's approaching it in the way of reality.
Yes.
Instead of pure theory.
That's what practical knowledge and traditions are, a constant process of interfacing with reality and learning from the experience, iteratively built up over time so that what you say and do actually represents the real world. Madness. What a fucking idiot. How could he do this? But look at my extravagant theory. Anyway, so here's... I don't know if he even personally raised it, actually. But because he has been publicly in favour of bringing back the death penalty, the left has been absolutely bricking it. And so the Soyjacks at the Times, and they just look...
Actually, yeah, they do look like two Soyjack memes.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like, these...
I kind of want to use that image from now on. as a stock image for stupid left wing article.
Yeah. Westminster Conservative. The Soyjacks have declared that he's in the minority for this. And it's like, really? I don't think he is. But they say he's declared himself in favour of bringing back the death penalty, primarily on the grounds that nobody ever committed the crime after being executed, which
is brilliant logic.
Prove him wrong. That's all I'm saying, right? Research suggests that he may be onto something.
We've observed everyone who was dead in the church since they've been there.
Well, the scientific examination into this is tentative, but proving that maybe he's got something here. Surveys conducted after the last general election found that with the statement for some crimes, the death penalty is the most appropriate sentence, some 63% of those who voted Tory in 2019 agreed. I'll get into...
So that's the public.
Yes. It's also more than that. Not more than that, but it's also about that for just the general public. Just because, in fact, a lot of Labour voters are, quote, far right, turns out. But the thing is, notice they say he's in the minority. Well, what minority is he in? Well, our research on Tory MPs suggested that only 21% of them thought the death penalty was most appropriate sentence for some crimes. That's the minority.
The Tory MPs are on the left of reality.
Yes.
The entire public, overwhelmingly. I mean, to get 63% in any poll, frankly, it's really hard.
Brexit didn't get that.
To get that high of a support.
I know. And the Conservatives are like, yeah, well, we're not going near that. We don't want to win. We're the party of constant loss. And somehow we spend most of our time in government.
But also doing the wrong thing. Like, forget just popularity. Like, the right thing here is to kill Lee Rigby's murderers.
Yes. Anyway, one obvious risk is that it plays well in the red wall, goes down like a proverbial lead balloon in the blue wall, the south, which may be at risk to fall into the Lib Dems. It's like...
It's not.
No, it's not. But also, no, it doesn't. Actually, it's remarkable that there's not really that much of a class distinction, right? So I covered this excessively in my Sensible Centrist article, Sensible Centre article, because this was just looking at what are the majority positions of the British public. And it turns out that the British public are actually most agreeable upon the idea of the death penalty for serious crimes. They've always been in favour of it. Even in... like the entire United Kingdom, so including the left-wing sort of Celtic areas, it's still 51% of people who are just like, yeah, we should bring it back. When it's framed in a different way, as in, should it be for the murder of a child or a police officer, this rises to 60%, and that was in 2011, right? So you might think, well, maybe people have changed their mind in the last 10 years. No, in 2021, 51% still favoured the restoration of death penalty for terrorism, and only 26% were in favour of not having it. 2-1. It's mad. Even a plurality of young people, so 42% were in favour of it, and 45% of Labour voters stood in support. And this is just wild, right? And so the argument will be, yeah, but what if we execute an innocent man, which we'll get to in a minute? It's like, no, that was never the argument that was raised when they came to abolishing the death penalty in, I think it was 1965 or 66. Was it 69? It's in the article. But this was done by a Labour MP called Sidney Silverman, who, and this is a direct quote, "What I have denied and do not deny alone is that the death penalty is a deterrent to murder in any sense that is more effective than any other existing or imaginable deterrence." So they abolished it based on the idea that there could be better deterrents to murdering people.
Did they ever find them?
No.
Weird.
No, actually, Lee Anderson is completely vindicated in this. It turns out the best deterrent to murder is execution. 100%.
Everyone wants to be knocked out. No one wants to be dead.
Yeah, 100% non-reoffending rate. But anyway, so on BBC Question Time, they discussed this, and Matthew Syed, a journalist, was like, well, as I understand it from polling, 40% of the country agrees with that opinion. Nope, 60%. But, you know, you can't frame it in a way that makes it look like you guys are the fringe lunatics following the communist doctrine of the abolition of the death penalty. And it is a communist doctrine as well, as I cover in the Sensible Centre article. This isn't something native to Britain. This was something that was imposed on Britain. I mean, Sidney Silverman was a communist immigrant, or the son of an immigrant, and couldn't get elected in Liverpool, which was Catholic at the time, and so they were like, piss off commie. And so he had to get parachuted into a Labour safe seat. And even then, he wasn't allowed into government because he was a radical leftist, and they were like, "Yeah, no, bad look. We're not having it." So it's totally alien, and the British public have never agreed with this. And in fact, the highest indicator for support of Brexit is whether you're in favour of the death penalty or not, which is really interesting. They say, if you look at attitudes to the questions such as, do you think criminals should be publicly whipped, or are you in favour of the death penalty, those things are much better predictors, and you get over a 70% accuracy as to whether that person voted Brexit or not. So even 30% of Remainers are like, well, yeah, obviously. Because what this is traditional British morality in play, where the locus of responsibility is within the individual themselves. So if you personally do something heinous, you personally should receive the highest punishment, which I agree with. Turns out that Rishi Sunak doesn't know. He's a progressive.
They're good. This is the really annoying thing about all of this, is because, like, yeah, really cool, interesting character. Should be running the whole goddamn party. And should be proposing 5 new laws a day.
Yeah, I'd be very happy with Lee Anderson in charge.
But instead we get the globalist coup.
Well, he should have been standing at the Conservative leadership contest, shouldn't he?
Yeah, sure, but they still would have overthrown him. Like Liz Truss.
Maybe.
Let's be frank.
Maybe, but we're doing a massive landslide in favour of him, wouldn't it? Him or Rishi Sunak, who are you voting for? I'm voting the death penalty guy. God damn it. But Rishi... Again, I love the way this guy frames it, right? Noting that opponents held up the prospect of miscarriages of justice, he said people shown murdering someone on camera should be executed the same week. I don't want to pay for these people.
Yeah.
I just love to hear it. Just love to hear it bluntly from a Conservative MP.
Sorry, what else are you going to do with Saddam Hussein?
What is he going to do with the murderers of Lee Rigby?
Sure, but it's like, at least with Saddam Hussein, we actually did it. We're all on the same page here.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what did you want to do instead?
Yeah. Were the Israelis wrong for for executing Eichmann and various other architects of the Holocaust? I don't think so.
Don't care.
No, not in any shape or form. Anderson's views were swiftly disowned by Sunak.
It was like, I would never execute Hitler. he should just be in prison for life. I mean, there's going to be
That's
questions.
basically what he said.
So if we find Hitler in Argentina, what do we do with him? We're not killing him. That's be barbaric.
That's basically what he said. That's not my view. That's not the government's view. Well,
Hitler was a good man.
Yeah, everything should be, shouldn't it, Rishi? Jesus Christ. So anyway, we get into the argument. Oh, well, we don't want to hang innocent people from The Guardian. Of course, from The Guardian.
Yeah, they love Hitler too. Cool.
Who, Duncan Campbell decided to write an article that's just not really accurate. He's like, oh, well, we scrapped the death penalty for a reason. It's like, yeah, the reason was because a bunch of communist radicals were busy trying to reformat this country to better resemble Europe rather than Britain.
We weren't talking about, oh no, we killed loads of people who were actually innocent.
No, because
this isn't something that happened in Britain. We were talking about people we knew were guilty.
Yes.
But then we're like, let's just reform the law.
There are 1 or 2 cases where there are probably injustices there, right? Because back in like the 40s and 50s, it turned out that the standard for evidence just wasn't as good as what we have now.
But this wasn't the argument made at the time as well.
No, it was not the argument made at the time. That's the thing. Weirdly, I mean, it got play in the press where they'd have like this one guy. But the thing is, we had a policy, according to Peter Hitchens, of if a group of people were trying to say break into a home and one of them murdered someone, all of them would be hanged, which I think is brilliant. But
yeah, I got no problem with that.
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing breaking? And this is apparently criminals used to pat each other down to make sure none of them were carrying a gun, to make sure they didn't all get hanged. And this happened with the hanging of a chap called Bentley. I can't remember his first name, but the 16-year-old
Mercedes.
No, the 16-year-old and 18-year-old were engaged in a crime, and they got intercepted by a police officer. And the 16-year-old was holding the gun, and Bentley was 18, and he said, "Let him have it, Chris," to the 16-year-old. Now that can be interpreted in 2 ways: give him the gun or shoot him. Now the 16-year-old shot him, and they were both hanged.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not in any way sympathetic at all. And they were like, yeah, but he had a mental age of 11. Well, a lot of people have a mental age of 11. You know, mostly Labour voters.
Think about the rabbits, Lenny. I don't.
Yeah. Just Labour voters. You know, progressives, Lib Dem party members. You know, like there are so many people. That's not an excuse. But anyway, so he complains that's it's all about protecting innocent people. It's like, it's not though. And actually, we can know, especially in the modern times, that someone committed a crime with what is called an infallible level of justification, as in it could not have been this person. It could not have been this person. The murderers of Lee Rigby are a great example, because they literally did it in broad daylight.
And then stood around for 30 minutes with a piece of paper with every reason as to why they did it.
Yeah,
explaining it to
with
people,
the knife and blood on their hands.
people filming on their phones, and they were explaining to the phone, look, this is why we did it. Here's the quotes of the Quran. Don't worry, we're all justified.
Yeah.
And then when the police turned up, charged the police with the knives.
Yeah.
And got tased.
Yes. So it literally could not be another pair of men that were guilty of murdering Lee Rigby.
I don't know.
It couldn't.
Could have swapped them in the prison cell. Some random guys off the street. Who knows?
That's the thing. There's just absolutely no reason to think that it was anyone else. And the same with, say, the London Bridge attacker. Usman Khan, he was actually shot in the thing, so obviously he doesn't need to be executed. But the man was literally in the middle of the terror attack when he was subdued and then shot by the police, right?
Good. Death penalty in action. There you are.
Exactly. And so this is when people are like, well, I don't trust the state with that power. Yes, you do. They already have that power. Here's an example of it, right? You do. And what you're arguing is at the abolition of essentially the police's ability to deal with terror attacks, or the abolition of the military when you say, well, I don't trust the state with that power. Yeah, you do. You already do. Just that's a terrible argument, right? But assuming he wasn't shot in the process, we would know precisely who did this with an infallible level of justification. It could not have been someone else. We know it was this man because he was literally in the act of doing it, right? This isn't like some murder case from the 50s where we
found a dead woman and
there's some circumstantial evidence.
Maybe it was him. Gotta be the husband.
Exactly. We infer that it's him. We don't have to infer anything here, right? And you know what? When it comes to bringing back the death penalty, I'm actually okay. If we can't prove to an infallible standard that this person did it, then okay, then they just get life in prison. That's fine. You know, I'm totally happy.
There's also the death penalty.
In a way.
This is the point that people don't seem to recognize.
Yes.
It's true.
Sure. But I mean, different conversation. But the point is we can establish exactly who did something in the modern era. And if we can't, that's fine. They're ineligible for the death penalty. That's fine.
Yeah. If for some reason they get found to be innocent, they get released and they get a huge pile of cash.
Compensation, blah, blah. That's totally reasonable. Right. And so Peter Hitchens obviously started picking this up. He tweeted out this, because Peter Hitchens has been an advocate for the return of the death penalty because he's a sensible British man. He tweeted out this, and it turns out that in the last 15 years, 100 prisoners who had been given life sentences and had been released went on to commit another violent crime, including 30 murders. Murderers who killed twice.
One of those that we're talking about has the absolute standard you were talking of the death penalty as well, is the Reading stabber. He was in there for terrorism offences, was meant to be in for life, and then he got released. And went out and immediately stabbed 3 gay guys in a park.
Yep.
Because they're gay, because he's an Islamist.
Yep.
Should have been killed originally.
Yep.
Could have killed him again now, and instead he's in there for life now.
Yep. And for some reason, the left have absolutely no sympathy for any of these people. So, like, what if an innocent person is killed? 30 innocent people were killed, actually, in the last 15 years because of releasing murderers who we know were murderers, and for some reason they were just let out to kill other people. That's not sympathetic. That's not compassion. That's evil. Anyway, Pete Hitchens also tweeted out his Q&A on the death penalty, which he wrote a couple of years ago, which again is just good stuff. And I realise this is going on, but this was just the thing I thought we had to finish on, which is The Guardian put out a quick thing on Margaret Thatcher. I've always voted for the death penalty. Why? Because she was a sensible British lady.
Why is Diane Abbott endorsing?
Yeah, exactly. Why is Diane Abbott endorsing? See,
is this meant to be a like dunk against this?
Yes, it is. This is meant to be a dunk, Diane.
Huh.
Remember, when you say they look like letterboxes and they're bum boys, other people are like, great. That's how I characterize them. Anyway, Margaret Thatcher endorsements aside, The Guardian decided to put out a massive endorsement of Lee Anderson, which they thought was a parody.
He's making the Tories great again. Well, it sounds like it.
So this is a political sketch, as in it's a parody article.
Bring back hanging and real men.
I mean, I don't disagree.
That's fine.
So let's go through it point by point. Make England great again, or mega? I'm listening.
Mega.
And I mean England. For far too long, we've wasted too much time on trying to keep the rest of the United Kingdom happy. But think of it this way. Name one thing that Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland has done to make an Englishman proud. Precisely nothing. Yeah.
Again, this isn't working as satire.
Yeah, exactly. What's your point? You know, it's all. It's not fair. All we've had is one long moan. It's not fair. We want more. Well, I say enough is enough. It's time for England to put England first. The sooner the rest of the UK understand what's good for England is good for them, the better.
We pay your benefits. We pay your benefits. We pay your benefits. I mean, it's true, though.
It's totally true. It's totally true. Anyway, capital punishment. There is currently an epidemic of violent crime in the country. Not wrong. Even the police, God bless them, are at it. People think they can get away with murder these days, but it's got to stop. So now is the time to bring back hanging. Have you ever heard of a person who's been executed going on to reoffend? No, so it clearly works as a deterrent, and who cares if you occasionally kill the wrong person? Well, I mean, Lee actually did say we should execute people who we know did the thing. So
it's not like Pretty Patel. You remember when she was arguing for it? Ian Hislop was like, "What if you kill the wrong person?" She was like, "Well, it's still deterrent. Killing the wrong person." And Pretty was like, "Well, yeah."
No, I didn't hear that. But you just need to explain. Well, we can infallibly justify things.
Yeah, we don't need to do that. Yeah. I just thought it was really funny when Pretty was like, "Yeah, let's kill the wrong person."
I approve of that commitment. But you know, no one's advocating for killing the wrong person, obviously. But he's also right. Like, they've been complaining about police who have been raping and murdering people, right? There have been a couple of high-profile cases of them. Well, those people should be hanged. It was not very controversial. Anyway, English football. There's a reason England's men's team haven't won the World Cup since 1966. Back then, the players were real men. You wouldn't have caught Bobby Moore, Jack Charlton, and all the other heroes taking the knee for Black Lives Matter.
What a load of woke nonsense.
So come on, England, give us a team of which we can be proud. I agree.
Yeah.
I hate it when the England... I don't like football at all, and yet I despise watching the England team take the knee. I'm wearing the bloody rainbow armbands. Discipline. Kids these days think they can do what they like. Give them a clip round the ear when you catch them littering at a bus stop and they start yelling about being violated and threaten to take you to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. If Brexit means anything, we should all have the right to taser oiks in the street. And schools should bring back corporal punishment. 6 strokes of the birch and children would think twice about talking back to a teacher. Respect, that's what we need.
Do these people realise how out of touch they are?
I'm totally in favour of this.
When they're writing this, being, how ridiculous.
Look at these stupid reactionary conservatives, if you say so.
Take that to any mother in the land.
I know. I'm saying this as a father. Yes. If my sons start mouthing off to the teacher, feel free to give them a whip. You know?
What happened at school? I got whipped. What were you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What did you do? Well, you know, the BBC. We've had enough of the so-called British Broadcasting Corporation. It may have once served a purpose, but all now it does is talk England down with its relentlessly woke multicultural agenda.
Just 100% fact check. True.
Yeah. I don't know what part of England it thinks it represents, but I don't see my life reflected on any of its programmes.
It's true.
Okay.
To the extreme.
Preach Queen at The Guardian, right? It's reached a point where you can't even install a Tory donor, blah, 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 blah. No one cares about Tory donors. Literally, you are parodying him talking about social issues which are true, and then you talk about Tory donors. Imagine Labour donors. Oh, the Labour parties. Oh, we're not going to have donors installed anyway. Shut up, right? What we want is GB News to become our national broadcaster, someone who understands English values and English news. Bring on Lawrence Fox, and while we're about it, we can get rid of that pinko rag, The Guardian. I would gladly exchange The Guardian for Lawrence Fox on GB News.
Yeah, easy.
It's not even a small question. And they are trying to persecute GB News out of existence at the moment, so, yeah.
I'm actually excited about it. He should tweet this and be like, actually, I agree with all this.
Yeah, he really should.
What's he got to say on the small boats?
Yeah, well, that's it. You won't find any true patriot who doesn't think this country has been overrun with immigrants. You can't find people who aren't patriots who don't think that. So some employers can't fill their vacancies. Well, I say far better to run the economy into the ground than have the wrong kind of workers. Man, the line's got to go up. That line doesn't go up. It's the end of the world.
Running the economy into the ground means paying English workers more.
Yes.
That's the end of the world. That's the worst thing that could happen.
Well, The Guardian can't have that. That's benefiting English people. First and foremost, though, we've got to stop the small boats crossing the channel. Right now, we're as good as saying, please do come, as we put them up in 5-star hotels and don't even deport them to Rwanda.
Fact check.
It's true.
It's actually happening. What do you want?
I totally endorse. It's time for more drastic action. We either need to send out the gunboats and shoot them out of the water, or need to mine the Kent beaches. As soon as the Albanians see pictures on TV of their compatriots getting blown to pieces, they'll stop making the crossing.
What do they...
Just think of the average man in a pub somewhere.
But also the idea that the Albanians, if they did see that, wouldn't stop coming.
Yeah, but no, nothing's going to deter us from our commitment to coming in, scrounging English benefits.
English cocaine that much.
Yeah.
I've just got to do my thing.
The NHS. We can all see the health system is overstretched, so we need some tough choices. For start, we need to get rid of the interpretation service. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We are the English health service, so all appointments should be in English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a letter the other day. It's in 20 languages. None of them are in English.
God.
I got this piece of paper. I'm turning it over. I'm like, there is no English side.
Thank God I'm fluent in Urdu or whatever you said.
Literally just like you've got like French and Spanish and stuff you can recognize, and then it's just symbols.
If patients want to see a doctor who speaks Urdu, they should go to Pakistan. It's also, he goes on, and I doubt he would say this, but...
Imagine being in Russia and just being like, why do the doctors not speak English?
Yes.
In this rural region.
Yes. Anyway, identity being the final one. He talks a little nonsense on the second bit. But identity being the final one, right? Aren't you sick of not being able to tell if someone is a man or a woman? I know I am. So all men should be made to have short hair, and all women's hair must come down at least below their ears. Then we'll know. And the pronouns should be as they were. Him for a man, her for a woman. Just to keep it simple. People who are confused about their gender should just make up their minds. I mean, I agree.
Yes. They do actually have specific haircuts in North Korea.
We should also get rid of the title Ms. Women can go back to Miss and Mrs. That way we'll all know exactly who we are. Ms. was a feminist invention. That sort of subvert the culture anyway. So yeah, get rid of Ms. No one used Ms. Like, shut up, 70s feminist.
Yeah.
Like, no one used that. And so... It's not like Lee isn't understanding of the fact that the enemy's attacks on him actually are an advertisement to his opponents. We can get to the next one, John. This is him tweeting, Lib Dem new attack poster. Drop me 48,000 off and I'll deliver them myself in Ashfield. Let's bring that image up.
Yeah?
Yep.
I'll come around, volunteer, and help you drop them.
Yeah, all his greatest hits. like, that's just such a... These are the worst things you've got to say about him, are they?
Yeah.
Liberal Democrats.
It's a great point, actually, about all those goddamn boat people who are doing nothing all day except collecting money.
Our money.
Yeah.
In a 5-star and 4-star hotels.
Why aren't they picking potatoes?
Harassing children. Yeah, exactly. Why? What? Oh, God, I hate the way this country is run. But yeah, so anyway, in summary, one local man has controversial opinions, and it turns out that everyone agrees with them, if you ask them.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Epoch series, this one on the Terra Nova expedition. If you'd like to find out what else Lotus Eaters is putting out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.